Good morning, everyone. My name is Thomas Reutman. I'm a hearing officer for San Francisco Public Works. Cerise Waiters is the clerk of this hearing. This hearing is being recorded via Zoom and will be available afterward through a link on the San Francisco Public Works website, sfpublicworks.org. As this is a virtual hearing, there's no sign-in sheet, so if you'd like to receive information about the results of this hearing, please send an email to the email address listed on the hearing notice. If you do not have that with you, please contact the Bureau of Urban Forestry at urbanforestry@sfdpw.org. This public hearing is being held to consider 4 items. First, public comment. Members of the public may address the hearing officer on matters that are within the department's jurisdiction, but not on the agenda today. Second, hearing order 206809 to consider an appeal from the property owner for the fine issued for illegal pruning of one street tree adjacent to 733 Plymouth Avenue. The fine levied for the illegal pruning is $2,230. Hearing order 206810 to consider an appeal from the property owner for the fine issued for illegal removal of one street tree adjacent to 2201 16th Avenue. The fine levied for the illegal removal is $2,230. And the last order was hearing order 206811 to consider an appeal from the property owner for the fine issued for illegal removal of 4 street trees adjacent to 2 Delano Avenue. The fine levied for the illegal removal is $8,920. My job as the hearing officer is to gather the facts for the hearing item, listen to your testimonies, and help our Director of Public Works make determinations. I will not be making any decisions today. Instead, I will forward the findings from this hearing and make my recommendations to the director. The director will make the final determinations. When the director's determinations are made, the department will notify you of them if you have provided contact information. The hearing will proceed as follows for the 4 cases. I will ask Public Works staff to speak first and present the case. Then I will allow the property owner, applicant, or appellant to speak. Then any member of the public or witness who wants to speak. And then the department, if the department would like to address any comments. And then if I feel it's warranted, I will allow an opportunity for further clarification by the appellant. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The clerk will monitor the time for the speakers and will indicate when the speaker has 30 seconds left. If you are a party to this proceeding, I will call on you to speak. If you would like to use visual materials in your presentation, please let me know before you speak. You will then have the standard 3 minutes to provide your comments. If you're a member of the public or witness who wants to speak, wait for me to call for public comments and then use Zoom's raise your hand feature to put yourself in the queue to speak. If you've dialed in by phone, raise your hand by pressing *9. And when told you are being unmuted, press *6 to unmute yourself before speaking. When it is your turn to speak, I will recognize you. Again, if you would like to use visual materials in your presentation, please let me know before you speak. You will then have the standard 3 minutes to provide your comments. Comments and questions should be addressed to me and not to the department or the applicant. If you cannot finish your comments within the allotted time, you may submit written testimony by the end of this hearing. If I feel that a question is warranted, I will ask the question. After all comments are completed, I will close the item. We will now begin the hearing. So first, are there any matters in the Public Works preview that are not on the agenda today?
I don't see any hands, Mr. Reutman.
Okay, then we'll start with the first order, hearing order number 206809 for 733 Plymouth Avenue. May I have Public Works make its presentation, please?
Awesome. Yes, thank you. Marcus Dotson with the Bureau of Public Works. I'm sorry, Bureau of Urban Forestry with Public Works. This first presentation is going to be a little bit longer just because there's definitions and things like that we should go over when we start to talk about illegal pruning and improper cuts and topping and things like that. So can everyone see? Let's see, share my screen. Can everyone see the screen with Public Works logo on it? I guess you can see that. So this is an administrative hearing for the fines levied as outlined by Thomas Froyman. This first definition is injury or destruction of trees is prohibited, and it's kind of defined as intentionally or maliciously through gross negligence to injure or destroy a street tree. And we'll get into more definitions of how that applies. Section 806 in Article 16 covers removal and planting of street trees. If the department grants a tree removal permit, it shall require that a street tree or trees of equivalent replacement value to the one removed be planted in place of the removed tree or impose an in lieu fee. Construction work, protection of trees is required. Anytime there's construction or excavation at a site for remodeling or a new building or something like that, or work is planned within the drip line of a significant tree or a landmark tree or a tree on any street or other publicly owned property, said tree shall be adequately protected. If any construction work results in the injury or damage to such trees, the responsible party may be subject to penalties. Injure or injury. This is generally defined as pruning, which in and of itself will kill or cause the tree to decline, or severing all or part of the tree. And we'll get into some photos that kind of demonstrate this exact sort of these cuts that we prohibit in San Francisco. A couple of kind of rules of thumb when you're pruning. This is just industry standard for ISA certified arborists. In general terms, 25% of a tree's canopy should not be removed and is considered to be damaging the tree at that point. It's no longer corrective or maintenance. If you're removing more than 25% of a mature tree's canopy, then you're damaging the tree, and punitive fines may follow for that. Another rule of thumb is the types of cut you make. Do not cut a branch to cut back a branch that is less than 1/3 or 1/2 the size of the main branch. So if you're pruning and you cut a branch and there's no other viable branch or next branch union that can take on the growth of that after that cut is taken, that's considered a topping cut, and that's not prohibited in San Francisco. So this is a photo of a couple of trees that are topped. This is pretty obvious to most people that see this. There's no foliage on the trees left, lots of stub cuts left. Essentially all of the tree's ability to photosynthesize with the green leaves has been removed. This is a pretty egregious case, but this is a clear example of topping that's not prohibited in San Francisco. When a tree is topped, as in the photo that we just saw, what tends to happen is the tree is, goes into shock, or it starts to panic, and it pushes out these shoots in the areas that were topped. And these shoots are little tiny branches in the tree's sort of last efforts to photosynthesize. These tiny branches are emanating from the same branch union, which creates a lot of crowding and really problematic branch structure as the tree grows, if it's left to grow. Essentially, this tree, the structure of this tree is not going to improve over the life of this tree. It's in a place where it's too far gone. So this is what it looks like with all of these shoots with the green leaves on it. This is kind of a clear look at the structure of the tree, what happens to a tree when you top it. Yes, the tree will sprout out green leaves and people think that it's fine, the tree is alive and it's doing well. That's not the case. This is kind of what's under the leaves. It has these really narrow angles of attachment, crowded branch unions. Really, as the tree grows and the diameter of these branches increases, it's just going to create an increased risk of limb failure and just a really problematic tree in terms of a maintenance standpoint. This tree would need to be visited multiple times a year just so that it doesn't get out of hand, and it will eventually decline as well. So this is sort of the next progression in that story of the tree branches that were emanating from that from these topped cuts here. You can see as the branches begin to grow and increase in diameter, they're going to crowd each other out. All of those little sprouts eventually will increase in size and create these pinch points and these angles of attachment that are just really super problematic for trees. It'll cause included bark. Those dark areas look like some included bark area that you can see because some of the branches were cut away for good reason, because crossing branches is not a good structure for trees to maintain over their lives. So again, this is not what we want to see in the street trees in San Francisco. We want trees to have good structure that can be maintained and live, live their lives in the place that they're planted. So another result of improper pruning is entry for pathogens and fungus. The picture on the left, you can see it looks like there's some exposed cambium there. That is an entry point for water will drop in there. Pathogens live in water and they'll seep into the tree's vascular system and cause damage and just weaken the branch unions of this tree. The picture on the right, you can kind of see a little closer up photo. Again, there's some dry rot to the far right, and then in the center, it looks like there's some rot happening right at that branch union, and it's creating a really weak attachment, which is problematic for us in terms of maintenance and the tree's health in general. Topping is not the same as pollarding. Some people, wonder why some trees are pollarded in this way, or they may think it's topping, but it's not. It's pollarding. It's a technique used to care for trees, and it's typically meant for certain species of trees. In San Francisco, if you're around City Hall, you can see the London planes out there that have been topped for years, but it's done from when the trees are young, and London planes in particular can handle this type of treatment. It's compared to the photo on the right. That was that first photo we saw on the slideshow of the top trees. If you try to go in, even for a London plane, if you try to go in and start pollarding a tree once the tree has reached a mature size, it's just going to be detrimental to the tree. You want to really start this young, and again, only certain species, specifically in San Francisco, you see it a lot with London planes. PG and high voltage, pruning around these utilities is important. PG&E is required to maintain trees at a safe distance around high voltage lines. PG&E will make those prunes, and that's why you see kind of the tree's canopies grow up and over or around in a sort of a V shape around those high voltage lines. Now the picture on the right is a jacaranda that is growing in and around some communication lines. Communication lines are designed to have foliage grown in and around them. These are not high voltage. These are at a lower setting, and it doesn't cause a higher risk for electrocution or something like that. You'll see the high voltage lines, and they're marked by yellow plaques that read high voltage. So if you're wondering about lines that a tree on your block might be growing into, if they're those low lines, again, those are communication lines, and you don't have to worry about the tree touching those lines. Street tree SF, just this is a map of kind of our maintenance plan for the city. The areas in red are areas that obviously need more attention. The areas in green are more canopy cover exists in those areas than the other areas I pointed out in red. Let's go back to the slide for a second. The city maintains trees in San Francisco, all the street trees. This is a key map, or what we internally call key map grid. Several blocks that consist of hundreds of trees are bundled into what we call key maps. The inspectors inspect the trees, and we prescribe work to be done to internal crews and contracted crews. When the crews are getting ready to work in your area, you'll see signs up the weeks leading up to that work, probably no parking signs so that they can get their bucket trucks and things like that into the trees. So this program, Street Tree SF, started in 2017, July of 2017, and total 24% of total tree maintenance has been addressed by city contractors since then. That covers over 30,000 trees and more than 3,000 at-risk trees, meaning trees with multiple limb failures in the past, or trees in decline, or dead trees. So again, the pruning schedule for Street Tree SF, there's a cycle of about 5 to 7 years that we can visit every one tree in San Francisco. Again, we put them into those key maps and contract them out to internal crews or private companies to take care of the tree maintenance in San Francisco. Just to give you a idea of the scale of this maintenance project, there's over 125,000 street trees in San Francisco that the city is trying to maintain on a regular basis. So it's a pretty large undertaking. These are the flyers you'll see, or door hangers you'll see before the tree crews get out there. A few photos of the bucket trucks. Again, you'll see no parking signs, things like that when they're getting ready to do the tree maintenance in your neighborhood. There is a path for reducing a fine. If people are interested, there's a tree pruning class you can attend. There's a fee associated with the class, but it's a way to possibly mitigate some of the fines. If people are interested, you can contact us for that. Send your information to Cerise and she can take that down for you. The first order, this is for 33 Plymouth Avenue. The fine was issued for illegal pruning in the amount of $2,230. This first slide is a photo of the street tree before the pruning took place. Looks like this was taken in 2021. And this is a photo of the tree later that year in September of 2021. This tree was topped, much like the first tree in our slide in my presentation. There's no foliage left of this tree. The only thing that's going to happen, the only thing that's going to happen is that those shoots are going to begin to sprout. The epicormic growth is going to happen, and the structure of this tree is just permanently damaged. That is essentially the reason for levying this fine. Here's another photo of the tree. There's a truck out front. You can see where all the limbs were put, but again, there's nothing left. There's no the tree has now lost its ability to photosynthesize, and it's going to just damage the tree into the future. This tree probably won't make it, and that's the result was the fine was issued for this particular offense. That was a little long-winded, but thank you. That was the first order.
Thank you, Marcus. Is the appellant present?
If you are present, can you please raise your hand and I will, okay, there we are. We have Francisco Casco.
You
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you will have 3 minutes to go ahead.
Okay, first of all, I want to show some pictures of the actual tree right now. Can that be possible?
Okay, then just a moment and let me promote you to a panelist and you'll be able to share your screen.
Oh,
All right, you have the pictures ready there on your
Yes.
computer? Okay, just a moment.
on our tablet.
Okay, just a moment.
Okay. Join as panelists.
You'll need to unmute yourself again. There you go.
Okay.
And now you should be able to share your screen.
Okay. The only thing I mute.
There should be a green button that says share screen.
Share screen right here.
Mhm.
Yes. Share.
Yes.
Open system preference.
It's nothing.
It's not coming on. Let me
Okay.
see. Share screen. I did it. I can see my name on the screen on the view. Start video here, maybe. Oh, here we go.
There you go. Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
This is the tree, the actual tree right now. Okay, and then we have another. Oh my goodness. Anyway,
Okay.
so we have a history with this tree. 20 years ago, I called the city.
Right there.
I called the city and I requested to come and check it out. A personnel from DPW came and she said that the property owner was responsible for it. So she didn't tell us no instruction as far as how to trim the tree. But since 1990, we've been after the city to come and trim the tree. Because as it is right now, I was doing something that I thought I was doing right, because from what I understand, previous years, the property owner was responsible for it. But I just found out, a few years ago that the city was supposed to take care of the tree. So I've been calling 311 for the last 5 years. And I have papers here that it shows that I requested the city to come in and take care of the tree pruning. And the overgrown tree has caused us the overhead wires, they're inside. We have severe line problem with the roots blocking the sewer lines. I had to replace 4 concrete sidewalk pieces. The curb is broken. The street light, the overgrown tree blocks the street light coming into a driveway. As a matter of fact, my daughter and my granddaughter were leaving our house and there was a person doing drugs right in front of my driveway. We live in a high crime area, the Lakeview district. So we have a lot of problems with drug addicts, homeless and stuff like that. So this is what I'm concerned with, the security issue. The tree is growing back up. We had this problem for the last 20 years. I called them up and the lady that came to see, she didn't explain, to us that how to trim the tree or anything like that. The only thing she said, you are responsible for the tree. As a matter of fact, the tree is on our neighbor's property. So it's right in the middle between her property and our property. She's an older lady. And so for me, I was trying to do something out of my own free will. I did it because I thought I was doing something good. And from what I understand, there's a way of trimming. I trimmed it once and it grew back up just the same way you saw it on the picture that you're showing us here. This is because I trimmed it once, but anyway, the overgrown tree has caused us problem with the sidewalk, with the curb, probably with the sewer lines, the same thing, and the security at most, because we do live in a high crime area, and the street light that is on the other side of our property, the overgrown tree, it blocks the street. I mean the light into our property, and like I said. We have a problem. One of my neighbors who's in a wheelchair, when he comes down there, he goes to the street to avoid going in between the tree and the driveway next to our lady neighbor. So
Okay,
parking
Mr.
my
Mr.
truck there.
Costco, that's 3 minutes. I'm sorry. Mr. Reutman, did you want him to continue or? We can't hear you. Mr. Reutman, you need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, if you could wrap up your testimony in the next 30 seconds or so, please.
Yes, thank you. And so I did it because I thought I was doing it good. I was doing something good for ourselves and for our neighbor. But it turned out to be I was doing with the intention is good, but the procedure was wrong. So I understand that. But like I said, 20 years, I've been with the city for the last 20 years. I have reported more than 5 times to 311 to see for them to come and talk to me so I can explain the situation. Nobody contacted me. So I went ahead and did it. And as far as I know, there was no intention to damage or to kill the tree. The tree is growing up because I did it once before, 14, 15 years ago, and the tree grows right back up. But, doing something good, maybe I made a mistake, but as far as, the responsibility comes into the city, they didn't help me out at all.
Right. Can I ask you a couple quick follow-up questions, Mr. Costco?
Yes, sir.
So you mentioned that that you did have a buff representative. Sorry, my light went off in my office, just a second. You mentioned that the buff representative came out and told you that it was your responsibility. Was that prior to the 2017 change of management responsibility to the city?
Yes, it was the first contact that we had with the lady supervisor. I'm not sure if she was from DPW, but something to do with the tree. And that was about 20 years ago. So she came and looked at the tree and she told us, my neighbor and myself, that the responsibility was for the homeowner. So we've been keeping, trimming it and doing stuff like that. But from what I understand, the city is supposed to prune the trees, within the city limit. But I contacted 311 more than 5 times, and like I said, I have paperwork on my
That's
complaints
helpful.
on it.
Do you have any dates you could give me on when you reached out to Public Works on those 311 calls? And you mentioned you didn't get any response.
I understand. The city, when I called up, they only sent me one, and this goes back to the survey request number. I have it. Okay, that was when I made the request. That was on June 11, 2020. Tree maintenance and damage, it says here. I don't know what else but anyway, so this goes back, and I have said, like I said, when I call 311, they started doing some research, and they just they sent me only one. But like I said, since I found out that the city was supposed to be responsible for the trimming then I've been calling 311 5 different times, maybe more, you know, so I'm pro tree. I love trees, you know, so, but when I requested those,
So you made, sorry, can I interrupt for a second?
yes, sir.
So you made a request on June 11th and subsequent follow-up calls. Did you, what time, or I guess what date did you prune the tree?
I pruned the tree maybe 4 months ago.
So after the initial request?
Oh, before. Yeah, no, you know, I've been requesting some kind of a help from the city. And like I said,
Maybe 2017. Es la primera vez que lo
Okay, I
yeah,
think-
so 20
I
years ago, I
appreciate that.
remember that.
So we can look into the records. I guess what I'm curious is, are you willing to attend the tree class that Mr. Dotson mentioned in the opening?
Oh, yeah, you know, because I mean, I'm a retired city employee. I used to work for Muni. My wife, she's retired disabled. And to pay such for us is big money, you know? So it will be, you know, Social Security and the city Muni retirement thing is just, you know, it will put us on a disadvantage. But if you know, I am, but
Okay.
I want to go on straight on the record. I'm pro tree. You know, as a matter of fact, here on Lakeview Park, they planted 35 trees, and the city or the Friends of the Urine Forest, they didn't water the plants. My wife and I, when we walk the dog around 4:30, we used to bring some gallons of water, and we started watering our tree. I'm pro tree, you know. So my situation is, I thought I was doing something right, and according to the law, then I was doing something wrong, you know, but I was not with no intention I want to damage the tree. But like I said, the main thing is that our tree was overgrown. The street light, because of the tree overgrown, the tree, it blocks the light into our property. And like I said, my daughter and my granddaughter they were going home, and a man was doing drugs right in front of our driveway, in front of our car. And my daughter, you know, she startled. She called me up and said, "Hey, Dad, hell, come." I went over there, and the guy just kept walking.
And the other thing, we got a daughter with Down syndrome, and then I'm handicapped. I have to walk with a cane. When we coming back for church, like 9:30, we can see because the tree covered the light.
Yeah.
In Santa, we almost fell, my daughter and me. That is not fair for us. We too handicapped in the house.
Yes.
Okay, well, I appreciate your testimony, and what you're saying is, it makes sense. Your reasons for, you know, wanting to take care of the tree, and your intent doesn't seem to be to harm the tree. It was just
No.
to prune it. But
Yes.
so the point of the tree class is to try to educate homeowners to understand how to properly prune the tree, and also how to I guess improve the communication with the city to make sure that the city can fulfill those pruning responsibilities. My question, I have a question for the department, and given the testimony from Mr. Costco about having reached out to the city in advance of doing the pruning, trying to get some input from the city, is there anything you can offer on that communication, or lapse of communication, or records?
I don't have the service request information in front of me, but just the photo documentation of when the pruning happened. It looks like this photo was taken in September of 2021. And those look to be pretty recent cuts in that photo. And so this was the topping took place last year, late last year.
So I guess what I'm getting at is, if Mr. Costco had initiated contact in June of 2020 looking for some
Right.
support and there was no response from the city, then,
Sure.
you know, does that change the city's disposition on the fine?
No, it doesn't change the city's disposition. The grievances or the issues that he was having with this tree is that happens often with trees in the street in San Francisco, but it's not a reason to go out and top the tree. It's just, unfortunately, the inspector in this area was driving the neighborhood, and our hand is forced when we see a problem or an issue this egregious, where all of the foliage is taken off the tree, regardless of what's happened up until that point. This is, a violation has been committed here. So that's the reason the fine was issued for this particular offense.
Understood. Okay, well, we'll look into the records and communication and then we'll make our recommendations.
Okay, yeah. And we can look into the service request as well to see exactly the timeline of when the communication happened.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in this hearing here to speak to this case? Okay, seeing none, I will move to the next case, which is order number 206810 for 2201 16th Avenue.
Okay, awesome. Can everyone see my screen? Okay,
Yes, we can.
2201 16th Avenue. Again, this is a fine for illegal removal, I'm sorry, not illegal pruning, of one street tree adjacent to the subject address in the amount of $2,231. This first photo is a photo of the tree, a before photo. It's this lagunaria right here against the property, kind of on the corner. This is another shot kind of down the street to show the distance here of the sidewalk and the tree in its location there. This first slide is the public right-of-way, and it's about 15 feet. We have internal maps that we consult to get the measurements for this particular these right-of-ways. This is important because trees within the right-of-way are considered street trees and have the protections of San Francisco's tree ordinance and Article 16. This is a photo of the location after the tree has been removed. It looks like the home is doing some repairs and some construction there. Oh, I'm sorry. And this here, you can see the stump kind of just low at the bottom here. But the tree's been completely removed. There was no application for the tree to be removed. It was removed without a permit issued by the Bureau of Urban Forestry, which is what is required for tree removal in San Francisco. And that's the reason why the tree, this fine was assessed. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the appellant present?
Yes. Hello.
Hi, please state your name and then give your testimony.
I would like to say that I would need to present my screen if that's possible.
Sure, just one moment. I will promote you to panelist. You'll need to go ahead and unmute yourself one more time, please.
I think I just did.
Okay, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, excellent. My name is Aliana Canvai, and I'm with Peters Design Build. We are a general contractor. and a project architect for 2201 16th Avenue. And I just pulled up the street view that we were talking about, and I'd like to mention that the species removed was not a primrose. It was a holly bush because primrose blooms June through September. And if you go through multiple street views throughout the years, the plant removed never bloomed. And back to the case. So we never intended to remove the tree, but it was growing so close to the building that in the course of foundation replacement, the roots were damaged and the tree started dying. So we had to remove it. And we didn't realize we needed a permit at the time. However, in course of communication with the BUF, we realized it was an honest mistake on our part and we already corrected it. So we have applied for a removal and replanting permit retroactively, and we paid all the dues. And now the code provides for a fine for tree removals as an equal to the tree's replacement value, and it was established to be $20 to $130 in our case. And I'd like to backtrack on this a little bit and say that long before the notice of illegal removal, we received an approval for a street landscaping, and that I will actually just present in just a second. I'll switch to the next sheet over. And as you can see, this is our subject property, and this is our former location of the holly bush that was removed. And as you can see, the proposed scope includes planting of 15 mature trees of desirable species, such as jacaranda or Cherokee chief dogwood and fern trees, and over 100 of smaller perennials and shrubs, in place of a holly bush, which is also considered to be an invasive species according to California Invasive Plant Council. That said, we believe that our proposed planting project by far exceeds the dollar amount of the fine and also exceeds the potential improvements achievable by the fine, therefore serving it in full. And even though there was a hiccup on the way, the end result fully satisfies the intent of the fine and the code. And this is why we're asking to have our fine dismissed. And we hope for your understanding. And this would be it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. You mentioned that, sorry, I missed one little part where you said that after you realized that, you had illegally removed the tree, not following the procedures, then you applied and received a permit, or you submitted an application and paid the fees. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, we have submitted for an application and paid the fees, but the processing of the permit was suspended till the hearing. So it is in process currently and paid for.
I see. I guess a question to the department is, does this, I guess, given the time frame of this, I understand that the fine is issued for the pruning or the removal itself, but is there any indication that the department would approve the removal with the application?
Right, the application, so when we receive applications, it's standard and customary for us to generate invoices for a removal. We will sometimes talk with the applicant to understand that they are sure that they want to move forward with the removal application, because there is a fee associated with it before we take those fees. It's unclear at this time if the department was going to retroactively approve the tree's removal. I'm not sure of the conversations that happened between the inspector and this particular application, but we can definitely look into that and follow those leads for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So we'll take a look into that and see how the application process ties into whether the in lieu fees and so forth are consistent with the planting plan, or whether that tree removal was denied for removal.
And to be clear, it was a retroactive tree removal application that was submitted and paid for, right? Not the sidewalk landscaping.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so the landscaping permit was a separate submittal, or
Yeah.
are you just,
Yeah.
and that went to Buff as well?
Yeah, so landscaping and tree planting and removal are separate applications. Landscaping also has a fee. Planting does not have a fee, but tree removal applications have a fee. And they're separate applications, and they move independently of one another.
Okay, so the fee for the application of the tree removal after the fact was paid. And the planting plan was submitted, but there's no fee associated with that.
Correct.
So what you're asserting, Ms. Convai, is it?
Yes.
Is that the cost of the actual installation exceeds the in lieu fee? Is that right? Not the cost of the permit application?
Yes, correct. That's what I'm saying. The material and the job cost of the proposed planting is way higher than the fine that was assigned to us. And we believe that it basically follows the intent and resolves the issue.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else here to give testimony for this case?
I don't think there is.
Okay, hearing none, then we'll close this order and move to order number 206811.
Thank you. Let's share my screen. This is for the fine issued for illegal removal of 4 trees adjacent to 2 Delano. This is a before photo of all 4 trees along the property line. This is an after photo. Looks like this photo was taken on January 20th of this year. The pink sort of markings indicate where the trees used to be. You can see the stumps and the tree basins left where the trees once were. The right-of-way in this area is 12 feet. The sidewalk here is approximately 9 feet, so the trees are well within the street tree zone. Again, this is the last photo here is a picture of the trees that were there along the fence, and they had been removed completely. And that's the reason the fine was assessed for this particular offense. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the appellant present?
Yes. Can you
I'm
hear
not
me?
sure if you're presenting, but if not, you can start your testimony and give us your name, please.
Arnold Rexniner. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Hello?
We can hear
We
you.
can hear you.
Oh, okay. Hi, good morning. I did not intentionally cut down these trees with disregard to the law. I'm a law-abiding citizen, a native San Franciscan and retired city employee. I always obtain permits when required for any additions, windows, roofs, updates. I thought they were my trees on my property. I was unaware of the ordinance, the section 806B of the San Francisco Public Works Code. I take great pride in my home. I like keeping my house and property looking nice for the neighborhood. I purchased, planted, and maintained the trees for over 33 years. I replaced them 33 years ago because of the decayed fence and overgrown landscaping. Never once during the 33 years did we hear from the city regarding our trees or informed at any time by a city entity that these trees were not our responsibility. Department of Urban Forestry did not even exist at the time. And After 7/1/17, I never got a flyer or notification that these were now city trees. I realized years ago that the trees were the wrong type of tree for such a small area. They were getting huge and expensive to maintain, and pruning now in the last few years more than once a year. I always had them professionally pruned because they were growing, which is obvious, they were growing so fast. They were very healthy trees. I mean, I hate to say that, but they were just becoming untenable. I mean, they're just requiring a lot of maintenance, and they were starting to crack and raise my sidewalk. These trees were cut down over 2.5 years ago. I had plans to replace them with 2 trees that would be smaller and easier to maintain. Then COVID happened. We moved out of the city for 1.5 years due to our age and health concerns. We were responsible for our granddaughter, who at the time was in high school, and we wanted to get her out of the city because we're older folks and we were very concerned about COVID, and we moved up to Guerneville, California. Who would have thought COVID would still be around? Completely put our plans to replant new trees on the back burner. We would like to resolve this situation. In lieu of a fine, I would like to be given the opportunity to obtain necessary permits and complete my original landscaping plans, which was to replace the trees. I want to reiterate again, never once did
30
anybody
seconds.
inform us that these were not our trees. And I purchased them, I planted them, I maintained them. Hello.
Yes, you have about
Thank
10
you.
seconds left.
Okay,
Oh, we're done.
I do have,
Someone's
I've
waiting.
been in, I have some other people that would like to speak on my behalf, and I would like to have the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your testimony and your understanding, and I hope that with the presentation about the initial presentation about the city's ownership and owner's responsibility to obtain permits and so forth, that that type of pruning is not allowed. And I do understand your explanation for the delay in replanting. But nonetheless, the taking out the trees without approval is problematic. So
If I could just add,
yeah, so we can, is there another person that wants to give testimony to this?
if I could add just a clarifying point about property and ownership and maintenance responsibility of the trees. It was a part of a ballot initiative in 2016 that was kind of everywhere in the time. And it was, the ballot measure was for the citizens of San Francisco to vote on whether or not they wanted the city to maintain and have this kind of jurisdiction over the street trees in San Francisco. And it passed with over 70% in favor of this change. So, that's, it had an overwhelming support by the citizens of San Francisco. Maybe we didn't flyer each individual home of this change, but it was a pretty high profile ballot measure on the November ballot in 2016 before it was enacted.
So Mr. Rex Steiner, you were unaware until 2020 when you were, or I guess 22 when you were fined for this pruning, that the city had taken over ownership? You're muted.
Oh, okay. So can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I purchased these trees and maintained them, and I was never, ever informed. I mean, I'm 70 years old, and in 2017, I mean, nobody ever informed us that they were now street trees. These were New Zealand Christmas trees, and if I hadn't kept them pruned from 2017 until 2022, when they came out here, could you imagine how large those trees would have been? I mean, I worked on these trees and kept them regularly pruned and looking good for the neighborhood, and I had them done professionally, and And they just became, they were just getting too big, and the stumps were getting too big. The trees were too crowded. It was starting to raise my sidewalk. But still, my thing is, nobody ever informed me they were street trees. They were not planted by the city. I planted them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but what you're saying here, your testimony is that until you were fined, you were unaware that the city had any tree maintenance responsibility.
Correct. I had no,
Never once.
never once did I have any idea that the city was aware, responsible for these
Were,
trees.
were you aware about rules, aside from the city's responsibility to prune, but the owner's responsibility to not cut trees without permit approval?
I was never informed of that by San Francisco either.
Okay. Thank you. You mentioned that there was another person on the Zoom call that wanted to give testimony.
Yes.
We have two hands. We have David Hooper. Go ahead, you should be able to speak.
Good morning. My name is David Hooper. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I serve as the president of the New Mission Terrace Improvement Association, and I like street trees. Personally, we live at 201 Delano, and we have 5 Arbutus Marina at our street. But there's a couple of things I'd like to point out to you, besides the fact that Buzz is probably the best maintained home in the neighborhood. If you have the photo, any of the photos that were presented by the department where the trees are down with the pink paint, could you present that, please?
Yeah, not a problem. Can you see my screen? There we go.
Bingo, thank you.
Yeah.
There's 2 things that I see commonly within the neighborhood. So I want street trees to be successful. I'm big on permeability. I'm big on trying to figure out some way to capture precipitation before it goes into the sewer and starts with the sewer flooding on Lower Cayuga Avenue. You can see that the sidewalk where the trees were planted is different than the standard, what people think of as the sidewalk. That's a common item throughout the neighborhood, that the right-of-way isn't indicated by the width of the sidewalk. And people tend to think that that portion of the sidewalk that isn't paved in the same manner is adjacent to their home and is their responsibility. You'll see flower beds, you'll see shrubs, and you'll see a wide variety of it. That's one. It is true that the right-of-way there might be 12 feet, but that in fact, the sidewalk, according to many of these homes, is not. Our home has a right-of-way of 15 feet with flower beds alongside it. And we have podocarpus planted alongside the fence. Thank you, Chris Campbell. And those are street trees. To replace a tree that was within our yard, within the fence on our property. So it gets to be a real can of worms when a citizen or a homeowner is trying to discern where their responsibilities begin and where the city's rights and laws overlap. It really gets to be problematic. That's one. Number 2, I'd like to say that these trees haven't been paved over. The intention to replace them, based upon conversations I've had with Buzz, is clear. That it wasn't a question that all of this was dug out and then repaved.
30 seconds.
The last point I'd like to make is that I want this program to be successful, and the level of communication needs to be improved. And if the neighborhood association or other neighborhood associations can figure out a way to help the department get the word out about this, I think that given staffing, it's really difficult to make sure that everybody knows where the responsibilities lie. So that's why I support this appeal. Thank you.
Thank you for the testimony. I guess given your heightened status as the president of the homeowners association, you probably are aware of the rules and the regulations.
I am personally, because we have 5 Arbutus marina, but the first 5 trees that we had planted 30 years ago were flowering cherry, and they all died. So if you were with the FUF program, you weren't guaranteed the level of professionalism that you are with urban forestry. You end up with trees that are wrong or that just never flourish based upon the size. Look at the ficus, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and
I guess what I'm getting at is Mr. Hooper, is that folks like yourself who are aware and have, you know, outreach abilities within your community can help us and Buff get the word out about these requirements, like the fact that the city maintains the maintenance responsibility and that the right of way extends beyond the sidewalk flags and so forth, so that we don't run into this issue of homeowners inadvertently breaking the law. And I think it's an effort that maybe Marcus can speak to, that we've done a fair amount of outreach from the city side to spread the word. So if there's any resources that Buff can provide homeowners, you know, website links or reminders about information that's already out there, it'll help avoid getting us into this predicament, especially by folks like Mr. Rechsteiner, who obviously wasn't intending to lose the trees.
Yeah, you know, Street Tree SF is a good place to find a bunch of resources about our program, about our maintenance. And in most of these cases, all of these cases, you know, not knowing what the law is not particularly a great defense of committing a crime or committing a violation in this way. These, you know, again, the trees are removed without a permit. I understand that some people, it's confusing if the sidewalk is not directly aligned with the public right of way, but again, it's as property owners in San Francisco, the onus is to do your due diligence is on you to understand what those things are. And you had a resource like the president of your association, the New Mission Terrace Improvement Association, that may have had this information for you ahead of removing these trees. And I do want to say thanks to you for planting trees in San Francisco and caring for them over all of those years. That's more than most people do. So, you know, we do appreciate that. Moving forward, planting trees in this particular location, the trees were planted at a distance that we would not permit. It looks like they're planted 3 feet apart. And if you're planting New Zealand Christmas trees 3 feet apart, that's going to cause issues in terms of maintenance in the future. But definitely if the homeowner is willing to plant more trees, we would love to see that too. So
I guess a question to the homeowner: are you willing to attend the tree class to learn about the rules and also to work with the department on the appropriate trees and going through the tree planting permit process for the proposed trees that you want to put in place of the ones that were removed?
Mr. Reutman, before I unmute him, there was another hand when you asked whether
Okay.
you want them first before you go back to the homeowner.
Let's do the other appellant's testimony first.
We have Christopher Campbell.
Hi there, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, I'm Christopher Campbell. I'm actually a local arborist, and I specialize in tree preservation, mostly in San Francisco. I happen to be Arnold's neighbor as well, so I live on the same block and know both David and Arnold very well. So just as a character witness for Arnold, I've known him for 16 years. He retired from the San Francisco Police Department, and you know, upright citizen to the T. I know there wasn't an intent to cause harm or to break any law. And, I've seen a lot of difficulty with the transfer of responsibility of street trees. I appreciate everything that Buff does, and I have a good relationship with Carla Short and most people within the Bureau. I feel like we're teammates in trying to increase the urban forest and take care of it as well. Part of that is educating clients or educating the public. And so, one thing I really feel that if there is a way to get a notice out to people that informs them that there is a fine, that they need permits for removal, that topping is illegal, then we avoid the people that had no intent of breaking the law and that are maybe being punished for ignorance. Now, I know that that's not an excuse for the law. However, I don't think our intent is to cause hardship for our citizens or our retirees, and these are pretty big fines. They are intended to catch people's attention. Long story short, I think that Arnold would like an opportunity to apply for the permits retroactively. I think there's an opportunity here to have him plant trees. I'm even willing to help him. I could help with tree selection, and I know that the Bureau would have their input and need to approve that. I feel pretty confident that he'd probably be willing to do the class as well. Again, the right-of-way thing, even myself, who's been doing tree work in San Francisco for 30 years,
30 seconds.
I'm still learning that, sometimes those city easements or right-of-ways extend well into what appears to be a front yard. And I just don't think that we should be punishing people. We should be educating them. So I ask to please give him the opportunity to do so. I have some a couple of tree species that I selected if you guys are interested in seeing them. Otherwise, I could communicate with the Bureau about with a planting permit. Also, one last thing. When I was looking at the picture with the pink lines, that might be an opportunity to actually open that well up more and do a couple of trees that are appropriate in size and maybe some sidewalk greening. So I saw maybe an opportunity for that. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think that's helpful to know that the owner is, interested in working with the city on rectifying this. I guess my only comment is if your neighbors, you should talk to your neighbors if they're a tree specialist before you cut trees in the future. Likewise, if you get in trouble with the law, maybe you should talk to your neighbor too, Chris. I think is there any other appellant or member of the public speaking on this case?
There are no other hands at this time.
Okay. I guess if the appellant is still present, I just want to confirm, that you would be willing to attend the tree class. I believe those are conducted remotely.
Yes, I would definitely be interested, but I just want to clarify something. I actually was not a police officer. I actually ran the maintenance for the city of San Francisco Police Department for 18 years. In the last 2 years for the whole city of San Francisco. And prior to going to the police department, I actually worked on all the tree topping equipment. So I'm a law-abiding citizen. It never meant harm. I mean, I planted the trees and thought I thought they were on my property and my trees. So I would definitely love to attend class. And Chris has noted, he's willing to work with me on putting some new trees in. And I'll obtain the permits and do everything right. I never intended to break the law.
Okay. And just to offer a counterpoint to this, something that we haven't seen in this particular hearing, but similar hearings in the past, we've had members of the public who offer the argument that the tree canopy is a mutual enjoyment by all, and permitting people to, whether intentionally or not, removing the canopy, it harms the public as well. And so they would say, you know, while sympathetic to the accidental removal or breaking of the rules, you know, you're actually harming people if we allow this sort of to happen without any sort of penalty. So I'm just putting that out there so that you can understand the perspective that we've heard from many members of the public in the past. But I think I have everything I need. Is there anyone else in this hearing that didn't get a chance to speak and you wanted to talk about any of the prior hearings?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, well, with that, then I will review and we'll follow up on those open issues that we discussed in the hearing, and we'll close the hearing now. Thank you.
Thanks. Are we, should we?
You mean you will close that case?
I'm sorry. Yeah, we'll close that case, and then that's the last case. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the last order.
Yes, that's correct. That's what I have as well.
Okay. So I'll make my determinations, and
Okay.
and once the determinations are made, they'll be issued to the, I guess, to the attendees and appellants. So we'll close the hearing now. Thank you.